And now they've known about it for years, but the talks have come right down to the wire. President Obama has cut short his holiday and called together key congressional leaders to come up with a deal to avoid a budget crisis. They have a deadline of Monday to avoid what's become known as the fiscal cliff. Well, without an agreement, a series of tax hikes and spending cuts will automatically kick in, and the fear is that sucking this money out of the economy could tip America into recession.
US President Barack Obama has cut short his holiday and returned to Washington to try to persuade Congress to reach an agreement avoiding the so-called fiscal cliff. The term refers to a series of tax hikes and spending cuts which will be implemented automatically if a deal cannot be reached by Monday. But just hours before Obama's return, members of the House showed no sign of compromise.
Taxes are approaching the wrong direction. Come the first of this year, Americans will have less income than they have today.
Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid, back from Christmas break, was highly pessimistic about passing anything to avert the fiscal cliff and keeping all Americans' taxes from going up January 1st.
I have to be very honest, Mr. President. I don't know time-wise how it can happen now.
The president called each of the 4 congressional leaders before leaving Hawaii. In his conversation with the Senate Republican leader, Mitch McConnell told the president he must see details of any Democratic proposal before agreeing to allow a vote, according to a McConnell aide, who also said it was the first time the two men talked since Thanksgiving.
We'll see what the president has to propose. Members on both sides of the aisle will review it, and then we'll decide how best to proceed. Hopefully there is still time for an agreement of some kind that saves the taxpayers from a wholly preventable economic crisis.
Democrats say the only way to avert that crisis at this late date is with the president's long-held position: keep tax cuts in place for households making under $250,000.
There is absolutely no reason, none, not to protect these Americans from a tax hike.
But Republicans say public pronouncements are not enough. They need and expect to get more details.
Without a deal, the immediate effect would be a tax hike affecting nearly every American taxpayer. Relief checks to 2 million jobless Americans would also stop. But later in 2013, big spending cuts would ripple through the economy, possibly triggering another U.S. recession.
Major purchases, not going to do them. Things that really you don't need, you're not going to get.
It'll probably affect my finances in a huge way.
So it affects my dad. My dad's 76, and he's already got his food stamps cut and his Medicaid cut, and I don't know how much more they can cut.
A new opinion poll finds that half of all Americans now expect no deal by New Year's Day. And by a margin of 2-1, they hold the Republicans more at fault than Obama and his fellow Democrats.
The uncertainty is making the markets nervous, and consumer confidence has fallen to a 4-month low, even as unemployment news continues to improve. Maybe it is the lack of faith Americans have in their politicians right now. Even Starbucks staff are calling on them to come together and find agreement. The president touched down with hopes even of a short-term deal looking uncertain. Debt, taxes and spending have dominated his first term and looks certain to continue. The impact on Americans might not be immediate, but it will be felt. They will pay the price of continuing gridlock.